While I was dodging mortar fire in Syria, writing letters home between patrols, my wife Madison was busy redecorating her life. A month before my deployment ended, she left a voicemail saying she needed a man with a future, not someone digging trenches. She lacked the guts to say it to my face. That message played in my ear as I stood on the tarmac, dust on my boots, duffel on my shoulder. 10 years passed, and I rebuilt everything from absolute zero. I went from a broke, divorced veteran sleeping on a friend's couch to Tyler Bennett, founder and CEO of one of the fastest-rising private security firms in the country. I never looked back until our college reunion. Walking into the campus ballroom in a custom-tailored suit, I felt the energy shift instantly. Conversations died mid-sentence, as former classmates recognized the ex-husband left for dead in the desert, now looking like the man on the cover of Forbes. Madison was already there, clinging to a mid-level banker, laughing far too loudly just to be seen. When her eyes landed on me, the shock melted into a practiced, predatory smile. She purred my name, stepping close, reaching out as if she still had rights to my life. I stared at her hand until she pulled it back, her confidence flickering under my cold silence. I wasn't there for nostalgia or to show off. 2 days prior, her former best friend Erica called me with the raw, ugly truth. While I bled overseas for our flag, Madison was posting beach selfies, vacationing at luxury resorts with her married 52-year-old boss, Doug. He had even slept in our bed while I fought in dirt-stained fatigues halfway across the world. Madison dragged her fragile, egoed boyfriend, Sean, over to make introductions. When Sean offered a soft handshake, saying Madison talked about me, I locked eyes with him and noted that she had mentioned almost nothing about him. Madison tried to brush it off as dry wit, but I leaned in, telling her she always possessed fake loyalty. Stiffening, she begged to speak in private. When she grabbed my sleeve, I yanked my arm away, telling her she threw away a man with fire in his lungs for someone who sells condos. She chose shallow over solid, and I was only there so she could witness what she destroyed. Leaving the ballroom for the balcony, my phone buzzed with a message from Erica warning me that Madison was already asking around about my net worth, claiming I owed her for her past support. Betrayals don't happen in screaming matches, they happen in silent shifts. I lost her in pieces months before Syria. She was distant, her hugs rigid and mechanical. When I told her I might not return from patrol, she barely glanced up from her phone, asking me to take out the trash. Love makes you blind, especially when you are surviving deserts and bullets for someone back home who could not care less. Driven by a need for absolute truth after the reunion, I accessed an old shared cloud drive she had forgotten. There, I found folders labeled with fake vacation titles she used when texting me overseas. Inside were images of hotel suites, champagne, and Madison wrapped in a red robe next to her gray-haired lover. Short video clips captured her whispering that this felt real. The ultimate insult while I was terrified in combat zone trenches writing her love letters. Worst of all was a draft of a divorce petition dated weeks before I shipped out, detailing her plan to strip me of my savings, truck, and house under the guise of compensation for being a military spouse. Sitting in the cold dark of my office, jaw clenched, I didn't scream or cry. I downloaded every file as proof, storing the receipts to ensure I would never fall for her lies again. 3 days later, Madison barged into my corporate office, uninvited, carrying herself like she owned the joint. She claimed she wanted to clear the air about our last interaction. Instead of arguing, I turned my computer monitor around, displaying the archived affair photos and the pre-deployment divorce draft. Her face drained of color as she stammered, asking how I had access. Coldly, I told her I retained my memory, something she lacked. When she tried to play the victim, claiming she was lonely and terrified while I was deployed, I cut through her excuses. I was at war sleeping in mud. She was sipping champagne in silk sheets. She wasn't terrified, she was bored. When her confidence cracked and she asked what I planned to do with the evidence, I told her she had already done everything for me. Opening the door, I informed her she hadn't left me for someone better, just someone easier. After she walked out, the silence felt like the wreckage of a high-speed crash. I went home, sat on the floor in the dark and let the pain rip through me. Physical combat was simple compared to the slice of intimate betrayal. The anger burned like fire, but beneath it lay intense shame for ignoring the red flags, the late-night texts, the sudden shift in wardrobe, the icy tone. I had been living in an illusion where she played an actress, and I was the fool taking it as reality. Yet, pain serves a purpose. It either destroys you or builds you into steel. I chose to rebuild. I drove myself harder in training, purged old photos, changed my phone number, and put a single phrase on my lock screen. Forgive yourself for not knowing what you didn't know before you learned it. I refused to let Madison haunt my legacy or shadow my success. Calling my attorney, I cut off every remaining legal thread, shared account, and lingering startup claim she could attempt to twist in court. I swore my company would carry only my name, protected by ironclad contracts. To process the anger, I quietly started seeing a therapist who forced me to look at where I traded self-respect for affection. I channeled my energy into mentoring young combat veterans transitioning back to civilian life, ensuring they wouldn't drown in the dark as I had. I began writing again, converting raw pain into purpose. Slowly, the memory of her lost its sting. One morning, I realized her name hadn't crossed my mind in days. I had stopped grieving a ghost and started owning my future. A month later, the past tried to claw its way back into my life. Messages from an unknown number appeared on my phone, begging to talk. Soon followed a long, melodramatic email detailing how her relationship with Doug had collapsed, how he was manipulative, and how seeing me at the reunion made her realize I was everything she ever wanted. It was pathetic and laughable. She didn't miss the soldier who wrote her from dirt trenches. She missed the executive who could buy a penthouse suite. Curiosity led me to agree to a single meeting at a downtown cafe to shut it down permanently. She arrived in a designer coat, nervous and glossy-eyed, offering glowing compliments and claiming Doug failed to deliver on his promises. I cut through the performance, reminding her that she hadn't just broken my heart, she buried it while I was risking my life. When she began tearing up, claiming she missed who she was when she was with me, I told her she should have valued who I was when it mattered. She only missed the reflection of herself when I held her up. Reaching out to touch my hand, she asked if I hated her. I pulled away, telling her that hating her would mean I still cared. I left cash on the table and walked out into the cool air, entirely free. I opened the blinds the next morning, feeling the sun hit my face for the first time in years. Pulling out an old journal from my service days, I wrote 5 words. She doesn't define you anymore. My business expanded rapidly across the country. We built a national network of veterans, transforming our firm into a brotherhood rooted in trust, strength, and mutual respect. Beyond business, I met Leah, a woman of substance who respected my grind, my boundaries, and my past without ever asking for handouts. When I eventually opened up about the deployment, the voicemail, and the cloud drive, she didn't pity me. She remarked that Madison had tried to break a lion with words. Sitting on the balcony with Leah, watching the city skyline glow, she asked if I would undo marrying Madison if I could. I shook my head. The man she tried to destroy was the foundation for the man standing here today. Looking back, the total destruction of that marriage shattered a dangerous illusion and forced me to discover my true strength. Madison's ultimate punishment isn't my anger, it is my complete and permanent absence. She traded a loyalty forged in fire for temporary flattery and cheap luxury, and now she gets to watch me build a sacred, indestructible life with someone who actually deserves it. Betrayal is not the end of a man's story. It is the brutal, necessary birth of his self-respect. When someone shows you they are willing to burn your world down for their comfort, stop begging for answers, stop carrying their shame, and level up in absolute silence. The ultimate revenge isn't striking back. It is becoming completely untouchable by the damage they tried to inflict.